Welcome back to Sip&Talk. I'm Joe.
And I'm Sunny. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world.
Welcome. So today's topic is, what information did you find today?
Yeah. I was drinking my coffee this morning, and you said something that just sort of stuck with me. It was so out there, so absurd, that it actually made the whole problem click into place.
Oh, you mean the Mars sovereignty idea?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
If the PRC is going to keep stretching history back to, ancient times, why shouldn't Taiwan just go for it and declare sovereignty over Mars?
Well, it makes a weird kind of sense, right? It's almost easier to defend. I mean, nobody's up there to argue the point. Just it uses that absurdity to perfectly shine a light on the huge logical flaw in Beijing's narrative.
And that right there is our starting point for this Sip and Talk. What we're really looking at today isn't just, a standard political disagreement. It's a full-on weaponized campaign to create an information deepfake. They're using this historical smoke and mirrors, but now it's supercharged with modern AI to just completely distort reality.
And that's exactly why Taiwan can't afford to just be reactive.
Right.
I mean, if you're just playing defense against a constant fire hose of lies, you're going to lose. You just will.
So they have to get out ahead of it.
They have to. They need to proactively anchor the entire narrative. They have to make Taiwan's actual unshakable reality the simplest, most easily understood fact for the whole international community.
Okay, so let's define the mission for today's Sip and Talk. We're going to unpack Taiwan's two-pronged defense. On one side, you have the formal, the legal, the democratic anchor, the rational argument.
And on the other, you've got this auxiliary, often really funny war against the narrative deepfakes that's more the emotional defense.
Right. Because a lie takes, a single sentence to spread?
Oh, yeah. A rumor takes one tweet. But the rebuttal, the actual truth, requires a whole legal brief and a history lesson. It's not a fair fight.
So Taiwan's strategy has to be to cut through all that noise, forget the 10,000 pages of contested history for a second, and just focus on two, foundational facts. Facts the whole world can see and that Beijing really can't argue with in good faith.
Okay, so what's fact number one?
Fact number one, and this is the easy one. The People's Republic of China, which was established in 1949, so less than 100 years ago, has never, not for one single day, exercised any governing power over Taiwan. That's just a straight-up, non-negotiable historical reality.
And fact number two just builds right on top of that. Taiwan's sovereignty comes directly from its own people, through universal suffrage, through its democratic government.
And that government, under the name of the Republic of China, is actually, and this is the ironic part, it's historically older than the PRC itself. So there's this legal continuity.
Those 2 points right there, no historical governance by the PRC, and continuous current democratic rule by the ROC framework, that's the core. That's the unshakable foundation.
And if you just state those two things plainly, the whole PRC claim that Taiwan is some kind of renegade province starts to look, it looks ridiculous.
It creates what I like to call the democratic contradiction. It's like, imagine you claim you own an apartment building.
Okay.
But the people inside have been holding their own elections for the buildings board. They run their own security force. They collect their own fees. And you, the supposed owner, haven't even set foot inside since 1949.
Your claim to ownership looks pretty weak at that point.
It's impossible to sustain. So if the PRC claims Taiwan, they have to explain, and they can't, why they have absolutely zero control over its elections, its military, its policies. That visible contradiction, that thriving democracy, is the best evidence against their claim.
It's actually more absurd than claiming Mars.
In a way, yeah. Taiwan's success is the rebuttal. They just need to keep showing the world that Beijing's argument isn't really a historical debate. It's a factual deepfake that needs to be debunked.
Which brings us to probably the biggest, most powerful narrative deepfake they push on the world stage.
UN Resolution 2758.
Exactly.
It's their legal battering ram. And even though it's been debunked by legal experts, hundreds of times, they just keep promoting it as if it's this final sovereignty judgment. It's like someone insisting that 1 + 1 = 1.
The one China principle.
Yes. And they just shout it over and over and over until you just get tired of arguing back that no, 1 + 1 actually = 2.
That is a perfect analogy. And we are going to get deep into how Taiwan is pushing back on that, working with allies like the US and the EU to clarify what TS758 actually says.
And it's a linguistic war, really. Taiwan has to refuse to get trapped inside Beijing's language. inside this frame of the Taiwan problem.
Right, they're changing the frame entirely. Instead of the Taiwan problem, the narrative is shifting to Taiwan's straight peace and international public interest.
And that is so key, because that shift gives allies a legitimate legal reason to get involved, to express concern. That reframing is central to everything we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. Okay, our mission is clear. We are unpacking the official legal foundation and the unofficial humorous war against absurdity. Let's start by defining the sheer scale of what they're up against.
So when we talk about China's propaganda against Taiwan, we have to be really clear. This is not your grandfather's state media. We're so far beyond just, Xinhua headlines or a news broadcast.
Right.
We're talking about an AI-driven, highly targeted, industrial-scale deepfake environment. The speed and the scale of it have just completely changed the game of information warfare.
So let's break that down. What are the mechanics here? We're talking about weaponized AI being used to sow chaos and division inside Taiwan. It's targeting domestic confidence.
Yes, this is psychological warfare, but it's married to the absolute latest technology. And the tactics are chillingly specific. They're designed to undermine trust in everything, in institutions, in candidates, in the election itself.
And a major part of that is creating these sophisticated fake videos of political figures, right?
Yeah.
We saw that ramping up ahead of the 2024 election.
We did. There were documented cases of fake clips of the now President Lai Ching-te being pushed really aggressively across social media. And these weren't, clumsy, easy-to-spot fakes.
No.
They were designed to look real enough, with almost perfect lip-syncing and believable backgrounds, to plant that seed of doubt in the average voter's mind. You're making it seem like he said something corrupt or was proposing some radical new policy.
And it's the doubt that's the real weapon, that's the goal.
Exactly. If you see a video that's even, say, 70% convincing, the damage is already done. Because now you start to question the authenticity of all media you see.
And it's not just candidates. They're using fake news anchors, too.
That tactic is so insidious because it creates this air of professional legitimacy. They'll use these virtual people who don't even exist, reading completely fabricated news scripts. And because it looks like a professional news report, it immediately feels more neutral than something from a state-run outlet.
And this is all happening alongside manipulated virtual polls and coordinated online campaigns.
Mm-hmm. The goal of the fake polls isn't really to trick professional pollsters. It's to confuse the public. If you just flood the zone with contradictory data, with wild predictions, with fake results, people lose faith in their own democratic system. And it makes them cynical, makes them think, why bother voting?
This is where the data really shows how fast this threat is growing. According to Taiwan's National Security Bureau, the jump between just 2023 and 2024 was, it was staggering.
Look at the infrastructure they built up.
Mm-hmm.
On a platform like TikTok, which is a known vector for this stuff, the number of tracked abnormal accounts that were linked to China just exploded. It went from about 255 to nearly 4,400.
Wait, in 1 year?
In one single year. That's almost an 18-fold increase in their operational capacity pointed right at Taiwan.
Wow. And I'm guessing the amount of content they were pushing grew to match?
Oh, absolutely. The volume of, let's call it controversial messaging, things targeting cross-strait relations, election integrity, you name it, it increased by 151% year over year.
That's not a surgical strike. That is a fire hose.
It is the fire hose of falsehood strategy. It's all about volume and speed. You don't care about truth or consistency. You just overwhelm people with so much noise that they give up trying to figure out what's real and what's fake.
And this is why this Sip and Talk matters so much, even if you don't follow Taiwan that closely. This is a global issue.
It is. We are watching a blueprint unfold in real time. This is how authoritarian regimes plan to use AI and deepfake tech to undermine democracies everywhere.
If they can make it work against Taiwan, which is one of the most tech-savvy and prepared societies in the world.
It can work anywhere. The defenses Taiwan is building right now, those are going to be the gold standard for fighting back against this new generation of influence ops.
So given that scale of the threat, the deepfake threat, Taiwan's response can't just be digital. It has to be anchored in something real, something solid.
It has to be anchored in an unshakable legal and historical foundation. So let's look at that official rational defense.
Okay, so when you're fighting a narrative war, your legal documents, your historical facts, those are your fortress walls.
Absolutely. And Taiwan's formal defense has to be built on a dense, solid legal foundation. This is what lets them stand firm in diplomatic settings, in international courts. And it all hinges on this concept of the Republic of China, or ROC, as a successor state.
This is the official rational side of the argument. And to really get it, we have to go all the way back to 1912. Why is that date so important?
Because that's when the original Republic of China was founded, after the Qing dynasty collapsed. The key part of Taiwan's legal argument is that this government has existed continuously ever since. Even after it lost the Chinese Civil War in 1949 and retreated to Taiwan, it never ceased to exist as a government.
And that idea of continuity is the direct counter to the PRC's claim that the ROC just vanished in 1949.
Exactly. But the legal status after World War II is maybe even more critical on the international stage.
So let's look at 1945. What happens then?
Well, after Japan surrenders, you have the Cairo Declaration and the Potsdam Proclamation. These documents said that Taiwan, which had been under Japanese control, should be returned. The crucial detail is who it was returned to.
Right.
It was returned to the administration of the ROC. The PRC didn't even exist as a government yet. So that establishes the ROC's legitimate post-war administrative presence on the island.
So the PRC's whole argument is that after 1949, they became China. So they inherited everything, including Taiwan. But it's not that simple.
Not at all. And this brings us to the big legal gap that China just loves to exploit in its narrative deepfake. The 1951 San Francisco Peace Treaty.
Okay, what did that treaty do?
It formally ended the war between Japan and the Allies. And in it, Japan renounced all its rights, titles, and claims to Taiwan.
But, and this is the important part, what did it not do?
It did not definitively transfer Taiwan's sovereignty to anyone specific. Japan gave it up, but the treaty text is ambiguous about who the recipient was.
It's silent on the issue.
Exactly. And that ambiguity is what Beijing weaponizes. They say, see, it's settled, it's ours. But Taiwan's counter is that this ambiguity proves its status is not settled, and that its final status should depend on the will of the people who actually live there.
So they're not just resting on these old treaties. They're actively working to strengthen this legal foundation today. What does that look like?
Well, first, there's a strategy of just constant legal reports and documentation. It's not glamorous work, but entities like their Ministry of Foreign Affairs, working with international groups like the U.S. Asia Law Institute, are constantly publishing these dense, formal reports that clarify the ROC's legal status and debunk all the myths about UN 2758.
So it's about building a massive, detailed paper trail that international lawyers and diplomats can't just ignore.
Precisely. And at the same time, they're pushing for internal strength. They're using constitutional interpretation to strengthen what they call Taiwan subjectivity. This basically means legally anchoring the state's identity in its current reality, the democracy on Taiwan, while still maintaining the ROC constitutional framework.
And it feels like their biggest weapon in all this is just their success as a democracy. That's their soft power.
It's the Taiwan model, and it's priceless. By showing the world how they run transparent elections, how they protect a free press, and how they fight off foreign infiltration, they're just demonstrating competence and legitimacy.
I mean, look at the praise they got for the 2024 election.
Right. Beijing flooded the internet with fake polls and deepfakes, and what happened? They held a clean, transparent election, and everyone accepted the result. That's a huge win for their soft power in forums like the Interparliamentary Alliance on China.
That visibility is so important. So beyond that, they're leaning on allied support.
Heavily. They're deepening relationships under frameworks like the Taiwan Relations Act with the U.S. That provides a security anchor. But they're also pushing for new legislation, like the proposed Taiwan International Participation Act in the U.S. Congress.
And that kind of law isn't just symbolic, right?
Not at all. It would legally require U.S. agencies to advocate for Taiwan's inclusion in international organizations. It's a direct counter to Beijing's campaign to isolate them.
And all this diplomatic work adds up. They are not the isolated island Beijing wants them to be.
Far from it. They have 110 diplomatic and quasi-diplomatic offices around the world. That puts them at 33rd in the 2024 Diplomacy Index. They're more globally integrated than many full UN members.
And let's not forget the huge leverage they have with the economic reality check. I mean, we all know about TSMC and the strategic value of their chips.
That alone buys them a seat at the highest levels of strategic discussion in Washington, Tokyo, and Brussels. But you have to look beyond the chips to the human level.
Okay.
What often gets lost in all these historical arguments is the staggering difference in quality of life. Taiwan's GDP per capita is about 5 times that of China's.
5 times. Let that sink in.
That one number sends a powerful message. It shows that Taiwan is a developed, successful, functional democracy. It makes it incredibly hard for Beijing to argue that they have some moral claim over a territory that's so much more prosperous and successful under its own independent government.
The economic success itself is a rebuttal to the deepfake.
It proves that self-governance works. But now, let's tackle the biggest hurdle they face in the international arena, the thing that keeps them out of so many rooms. UN Resolution 2758.
Right. This 1971 resolution is probably the most successful piece of, well, linguistic deepfake that the PRC had ever created. It's so important we break down the myth versus the fact here.
Let's start with the myth that the story Beijing tells over and over.
Okay, what's the myth?
The myth is that 2758 is a final, internationally recognized sovereignty judgment, that it confirms their one China principle. They use this to block Taiwan from everything, from the World Health Organization to, regional trade forums. They say the case is closed, legally settled, done.
But what is the actual verifiable fact of the resolution?
The fact, which is confirmed by decades of legal analysis, is that 2758 was a purely procedural resolution. It answered one single question. Who gets to sit in the China seat at the UN General Assembly?
So it was about representation.
That's it. It was about representation, not territorial status. It recognized the PRC as the sole legitimate representative of China in the UN, and it kicked out the representatives from the RSC.
It's the difference between deciding who represents a company at a big meeting versus deciding who actually owns the land the company's building is on.
Perfect analogy. There are two totally separate legal questions. The text of the resolution says nothing about Taiwan's territory. It doesn't endorse the PRC's One China principle. It just settled the question of the UNC.
And we are seeing Taiwan and its allies really start to push back on this publicly.
They are. And that allied support is critical for correcting the record. In 2024, we saw both the U.S. Congress and the European Union make official statements clarifying that UN Resolution 2758 does not determine sovereignty over Taiwan. That kind of official pushback really blunts the effectiveness of Beijing's deepfake claim.
But the core strategy for Taiwan here is to completely change the framework. They have to stop getting dragged into this quicksand of the Taiwan problem?
Yes, because that very language, the Taiwan problem, implies that Taiwan is the problem, the thing that needs to be fixed. If you accept that language, you're already in a defensive passive role. You have to reject it.
So the new frame, which we talked about, is Taiwan's straight peace and international public interest. Let's break down why that reframing is so effective, so, frankly, brilliant.
Okay, it works because it shifts the focus away from old historical fights and puts it squarely on future stability. If the issue is just an internal dispute for China, other countries have very limited legal grounds to get involved.
Because of the principle of non-interference.
Right, but the moment you frame it as a matter of international public interest,
then the whole game changes.
The whole calculus changes. Suddenly it's about protecting freedom of navigation. It's about the integrity of global supply chains, all those TSMC chips. It's about upholding democratic values.
So it gives allies a legitimate reason to act.
It gives them a legal basis. Intervention, or even just strong statements of concern from the US, Japan, the EU, Australia. Those become legitimate acts to protect the entire global community. It elevates the issue from a bilateral spat to a global security matter.
It's using the language of international law to justify multilateral support.
Let's go back to the contract analogy because it works perfectly. Imagine Beijing keeps insisting that Clause 2758, which only decided who gets the corner office, also means they own the company's entire patent portfolio.
A huge overreach.
A ridiculous overreach. So Taiwan's strategy is to bring in these highly respected third-party lawyers, their allies, to look at the original contract and say, no, the language is clear. This clause has nothing to do with ownership. It forces the world to see the PRC's interpretation as the real source of instability, not Taiwan's existence.
Okay, so that reframing is key. We have the legal foundation, the diplomatic reframing. Yeah. Now let's get down to the ground level. How do they fight the daily flood of deepfakes with tech and with people?
Right, so we're shifting from the high-level legal fortress to the operational shield on the ground. This is about neutralizing the daily threat of fake videos, fake polls, and all the malicious narratives that are just flooding social media.
And the defense has to match the attack, right? If the threat is AI-driven, the defense has to be as well.
It has to be, and speed is everything. So Taiwan has invested heavily in technical countermeasures. You have groups like Taiwan AI Labs, for example. They've developed some incredibly sophisticated deepfake detection systems.
And these aren't just like looking for a watermark or something.
No. These are machine learning tools that spot the tiny technical tells that a human eye would almost always miss, especially in deepfakes of political leaders.
What kind of tells are we talking about?
Things like micro inconsistencies in lip syncing, where it doesn't quite match the audio waveform, or weird artifacts in the background, or subtle shifts in facial texture, or even just inconsistent blinking patterns, which current AI models still struggle with. So if a video starts to go viral, these systems can flag it as suspicious in minutes.
And minutes matter, because if a deepfake is up for even a few hours, the damage is done. So platform cooperation must be critical.
It's vital. The government and third-party fact-checkers have to work really closely with the big social media companies, Meta, X, even TikTok, to get this stuff taken down quickly.
Yeah.
The 2024 election was a real test case. They were able to get over 1,000 PRC-linked fake accounts removed because of this rapid detection and reporting system.
And on the government side, they're looking at regulations too, right? Trying to legislate for more transparency.
Correct. They're looking at frameworks like the EU's AI Act and exploring laws that would require any AI-generated or significantly altered content to be clearly labeled. Transparency really is the best antidote to this kind of deliberate deception.
They're also working with international partners like the U.S. to track specific threats. I saw a mention of the APT31 hacker group.
Yes, let's pause on that. APT31 is a state-sponsored group directly linked to China's Ministry of State Security. They specialize in these high-volume, politically motivated info-ops and network intrusions. So by working with the U.S. to understand their tactics, their digital signatures, Taiwan can start to preempt their attacks instead of just reacting to them.
Okay, so the tech is the sensor. But the human element, the fact-checking and media literacy, that's the filter.
And this requires incredible agility. Taiwan has massively scaled up its rapid response networks. Groups like the Taiwan Fact-Check Center and the IORG Alliance have expanded to cover multiple languages and platforms.
So what's the procedure for, say, a major news outlet when a fake story breaks?
The standard is becoming that major outlets, like the Taipei Times, have to have a system in place to issue a formal, verified rebuttal within 24 hours of a false story going viral. You have to minimize the time that a lie can circulate completely unchallenged.
And they're borrowing strategies from other places under similar pressure, like Ukraine. What's the Ukraine model?
It involves creating a preventative fact database.
Yeah.
So instead of waiting for a lie to pop up, you preemptively debunk the most common recycled narratives, the Taiwan sovereignty undecided myth, or old deepfakes that tend to reappear every election cycle.
So when a new version of an old lie appears, the official, factual counterargument is already written, vetted, and ready to be deployed instantly.
It's like an inoculation.
Yeah.
You're teaching the public what the lie looks like before they're exposed to the full-strength virus.
Yeah.
And the really long-term solution here is education.
Absolutely. This isn't just about tech. It's about building a culture of healthy skepticism.
And that means integrating media literacy right into the K-12 curriculum, teaching kids how to spot the tells of a deepfake, how to verify sources. And beyond the classroom, you have civilian groups like Doublethink Lab holding these huge public workshops. They trained over 100,000 citizens in 2024 alone.
100,000 people. That's like creating a distributed civilian defense network. Every one of those people is a node in the fact-checking system.
And we have the metrics to prove this works. During the 2024 election, despite facing the largest information attack on record, this combination of tech and human fact-checking reduced the overall measurable impact of the campaigns by an estimated 30%.
And that 30% isn't just a number. That's the margin of democratic stability. It shows this multi-layered defense really can work. But now we get to the fun part, the part that's less about the serious legal defense and more about making the whole propaganda machine a laughingstock.
Yes. So we've laid out the formal defense, which is based on law, democracy, and facts. Now let's pivot to the unofficial auxiliary strategy, using humor, satire, and reverse propaganda.
I like to call this the giggle gambit. And the reason you have to use absurdity is that when your opponent is using a fire hose of lies, a slow, rational legal rebuttal is just... it's too slow and it's too boring. Nobody shares a legal brief on social media.
But satire. Satire is fast, it's highly shareable, and it can simplify a complex argument in a second. By taking Beijing's absurd claims and just mirroring them back with even more absurdity, you can make the aggressor look ridiculous. It lowers the threat level.
We've seen this work so well internationally. I mean, look at Ukraine's defense against Russia. They mastered information resilience with memes and satire, constantly mocking Russian leadership and military failures.
Oh yeah, the fake videos of Russian officials surrendering or those deep fake songs making fun of Putin, those clips went viral all over the world. They boosted morale at home and made the Russian military look incompetent, not terrifying.
And even domestically, you see groups like the Anti-Defamation League League use humor to debunk really extreme fringe ideas. A funny graphic cuts through the noise way faster than a 10-page report.
So let's look at how Taiwan can apply this. Let's go back to your idea, the Mars meme.
Right. So instead of writing a long legal document debunking the since ancient times claim, you could create a mock news report, a deepfake of a fictional Chinese official, in a super formal suit, very seriously announcing, Taiwan has always belonged to Mars since ancient times, and anyone who disagrees is a Martian separatist.
And you pair that video with a simple caption, something like, this is what their since ancient times logic sounds like to the rest of the world. It exposes the flaw instantly, and it's funny.
And you can make it interactive. You could create something like a CCP fake news bingo card.
Oh, I love that. So you list all the common propaganda talking points on the card. Things like misusing the word acknowledges for recognizes, which is a common diplomatic trap, or claiming some Taiwanese cultural thing is inherently Chinese.
And then people on social media can track it and share when they spot these talking points in the wild. It turns being a media consumer into an active, engaging game of resistance.
But, and this is a really big but, this strategy comes with some serious risks. You have to be incredibly careful.
Absolutely. The main risk is that your satire, especially if it's a good deepfake, gets mistaken for actual fake news. And that could do real damage to Taiwan's democratic credibility.
Right. We've seen this happen before, where a satirical piece gets taken seriously and causes a minor diplomatic incident. Taiwan absolutely cannot afford to be seen as a source of disinformation, even if it's meant as a joke.
So the mitigation has to be baked in from the start.
It has to be non-negotiable. First, this strategy has to be clearly marked as satire. Second, it should only be deployed through non-official channels. Influencers, cultural groups, artists, never from, say, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs official account. And it always has to link back to the real factual evidence.
And they have to invest in technology like AI watermarking?
Yes, so that any official government statement or video has a clear, verifiable mark of authenticity. If it's satire, it's labeled. If it's official, its authenticity is guaranteed. That's how you keep the public's trust.
So the key takeaway here is that the absurdity weapon is a great tactical tool. It's fast, it can make Beijing's narrative a laughingstock, and it can build public immunity. But it is not the primary defense.
No. The primary defense is, and always must be, that steel core of law, fact, and continuous democratic governance. It's the combination of the firm foundation and this agile, lighthearted cultural pushback that makes their defense so resilient.
Right. The ultimate success is going to come from using both of these approaches together.
This has been such a detailed look at how Taiwan is fighting this unprecedented information war. Let's bring it all home and synthesize the two big battlefronts we've covered.
Okay, so on one side you have the formal legal defense, the rational steel core. That means anchoring their status in ROC history, proving their legitimacy with clean elections, and just relentlessly clarifying the real limited meaning of UN Resolution 2758.
And on the other side, you have the agile auxiliary shield, the humorous war. That's the satire, the memes, the rapid AI detection, and the community fact-checking. All of it designed to take apart Beijing's absurd claims and build up the public's immunity.
The bigger picture here at the end of the day is about changing how the world sees them. Taiwan isn't a problem that needs to be solved. It's a democratic lighthouse, a success story, and a vital economic partner whose stability is in everyone's best interest.
And when you neutralize the information threats, that inherent strength, that 5 times greater GDP per capita, is just going to shine even brighter. That sustained success is the ultimate counter-narrative. It's the one thing no deepfake can ever erase.
So we'll leave you, our listeners, with a final provocative thought. The next time you see a claim that's anchored only in some vague notion of ancient history, ask yourself about the actual verifiable political history of just the last 100 years. That little bit of homework is often the key that unlocks the truth behind the modern narrative deepfake.
An excellent call to action. And thank you all so much for joining us for this Sip and Talk.
Before you go, please do subscribe to Sip and Talk for more of these conversations. And seriously, if you need a total change of pace after all this heavy stuff, go check out our friend Vicky's YouTube channel, Micky to Life.
He's fantastic. It's just fun, accessible Taiwanese humor. He does beer reviews, travel vlogs. It's the perfect palate cleanser.
We all need a little bit of laughter. We will catch you on the next Sip and Talk.
See you soon.